With our technology and with Edith, Mysterio will be the greatest hero on Earth.
What's going on, guys? It's time for my Far From Home review. Now, in case you haven't seen my Homecoming review, I highly suggest checking out the description box. It's on another channel, on my gaming channel, and now we are back on the main channel. And in case somebody missed my comeback video, it's also on the gaming channel. All the links will be in the description box. The reason you should watch my Homecoming review is because I will be referencing it quite a lot here. Many of my takes on Tom Holland's Peter are set up in that first video. Spider-Man Far From Home, a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming and the first movie after Endgame. So the bar was kinda high. Expectations were surprisingly high as well. It was also the last movie of Phase 3 of the MCU. Not Endgame. Far From Home sealed arguably the best phase in Marvel Cinematic Universe in my opinion, and it was also the final movie of the Infinity Saga. Also because the movie was announced way before Endgame came out, and the fact that at this point Tom Holland only had one Spider-Man movie, everybody kinda knew that Spidey will survive this snap in Infinity War. He will be brought back somehow. So while this scene still kinda hits hard, you know, it's really awesome scene, nobody ever thought that that's the last of Tom Holland. Let's be honest here. The movie opens up with Nick Fury and Maria Hall investigating a crazy, mysterious sandstorm which destroyed a small village in Mexico, and some poor people described the sandstorm as having a giant scary face. And before we got some sort of explanation of this mysterious event, Quentin Beck Mysterio pops in and saves the day by beating the first elemental. Or Sandman. Or Elemental. Or Sandman. Or Elemental. I remember being slightly confused after the first trailer drop. Will those actually be real villains, real Sandman, real Hydro Man, or they're just mysterious puppets like manufactured villains and that's it? Because we do see the license plate right here in the opening shot showing us 463. This is an Easter egg to Sandman's first appearance in comic books, and also later in Venice we see ASM 212 again, an Easter egg for an issue with Hydro Man. Not only that, there's also an actual Hydro Man mention. Flash Thompson says there was a guy named...
BuzzFeed says there's a sailor named Morris Bench who was exposed to an experimental underwater generator and got hydro powers.
Yeah, you should definitely believe everything you read on the internet.
And there's also a Molten Man Easter egg with another number plate being 2865 September, Molten Man's first appearance ever. Then there's an actual Elementals team from the comic books, a bunch of extra dimensional folks from another dimension. And we could speculate that, you know, maybe Hellfire was Molten Man, maybe Hydron was Hydro Man, maybe Magnum was Sandman, and maybe Zephyr was Cyclone, right?
What one particular element comes to mind?
Liar.
No. Listen, they are simply called Elementals in this movie. By Mysterio himself, that's it. They have a small Easter eggs as to what characters they might be representing from comic books just to please some fans, I guess, but that's about it. I remember shortly after Far From Home came out, I was reading a bunch of forums and some people said that they wasted Hydro Man, oh, they wasted Sandman in Far From Home, this means we will never see Tom's Peter fight them again in future Spider-Man films. Oh no! Oh shit! No! We won't see Hydro Man? F off, nobody cares about them, and there are much better villains from Spidey's gallery for Peter to deal with instead of a freaking Hydro Man, alright? The Elementals, wink wink, they were used as simple distraction from the main bad guy in the first trailers, in the promotional campaign for Far From Home, showing us like Mysterio is actually a good guy, and I really wonder how many folks not familiar with Spider-Man or knowing who Mysterio actually is, legit thought that this moment here, when Quentin Beck appears and saves Nick Fury and Maria from Sandman, from Elemental, they thought he's actually a good guy. He will be a hero here. He might join Avengers later. I personally don't know such people, maybe you guys do. And then there was also a talk before the movie came out by actually Spider-Man fans, fellow webheads. They actually thought that this is a twist. This is MCU's take on Mysterio, and he's actually going to be a good guy instead of a bad guy. After a short tribute scene to Captain America, Black Widow and Iron Man, Betty Brant tells us all the dramatic consequences of the blip. How people lost their loved ones, how insanely hard it is for everybody to adjust to such a disaster. Yeah, actually no. The entire snap is presented like a joke, and you can see it throughout the entire movie. Everybody jokes about it, even adults don't take it seriously. Aunt May jokes about it. Peter's teacher tells him that his wife left him and she thought he would think that she got snapped and it's like a comedy. But to be honest, I don't think Spider-Man movie should be addressing all that stuff. That's a little bit too depressing, you know? Leave that, for example, to Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? Which also happens after Endgame, but after Far From Home. Now, in that show, you can actually see all the real consequences of the blip. Basically, whole world fell apart. Banks are struggling with dead people coming back after 5 years, and so on and on. And meanwhile, Peter and his friends are going on a school trip to Europe. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I mean, look what's happening around the world right now, like last couple of years. People are going on Facebook, they're reading about wars, about catastrophic events, and then they are putting OMG emoji, and then they launch Call of Duty session and whatever, nobody cares, right? People tend to move on pretty fast, and having a slight humorous approach to the events of Infinity War, to Thanos' snap, you know, humor helps you to get through it. So it kind of makes sense for Far From Home, especially from a 16-year-old perspective. Boom! Peter likes MJ now. I mentioned that abrupt change of love interest between Homecoming and Far From Home in my previous video. I said I had a problem with it, like, oh, he liked Liz and then now he's in love with Michelle Jones. But you know what? After rewatching Far From Home to prepare for this review, I thought, first of all, I remember myself being 16 years old. Every single school year I had a new crush, and you probably too, sometimes even more frequently. And second of all, Peter has been gone for 5 years. He technically died. It's been 8 months after the events of Endgame. They had to restart entire school year, blah 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 blah, so there's really a lot to process. Therefore, I'm going to slightly step back in regards to what I said about Peter suddenly falling in love with Michelle Jones, and I will say, you know what, that's actually perfectly fine. Especially since they had a brief moment at the end of Homecoming where it's kinda implied that, you know what, maybe Peter actually likes MJ. Aunt May is running homeless support charity, and shortly after we find out that her and Happy are now a thing. They're like dating, you know? Wow! It's worth noting that Happy actually survived the snap, while Aunt May didn't, which for me feels like a wasted opportunity, having Aunt May to deal with the death of Peter for 5 years. There could be some awesome scene of them reuniting together. It could add some emotional weight to their relationship in Far From Home. Like, imagine a scene where Tony has to tell Aunt May that Peter is gone. In Endgame, he apologizes. It could be some really emotional stuff, right? But anyway, she got snapped and she's back alongside with Peter. Meanwhile, Peter is suffering from post-Endgame, post-Thanos PTSD. He leaves all the reporters, he storms out of the building, and they cannot ask 1000 questions to him. And I instantly thought how similar this scene is to the scene from Iron Man 3, where Tony got reminded about NYC attack, and he had a panic attack as well, and he leaves the cafe. It's very similar, very interesting. And of course, Peter is rocking his Iron Spider suit, yet another gift from Tony he received in Infinity War. If you watched my Homecoming review, and I suggest watching it right now, in case you haven't, I talked so much about my problem with Stark Tech, amount of Tony Stark in Tom Holland's trilogy. I will not repeat myself, alright? Enough with that. But I will say something that isn't mentioned in the movie. I guess maybe heavily implied instead. I think the reason Peter is still wearing Iron Spider's suit at the start of Far From Home and not his Homecoming suit, right? At the end of Homecoming, is because he really misses Tony. You know, it's like a tribute to Tony. It's like, you know, I can't forget that guy. I want to pay respect to him. I will wear his suit. He doesn't really need that fancy gadget suit, really. He already declined the offer to get the suit at the end of Homecoming. Do you remember? So I think he just simply can't let it go. He's just wearing it purely to pay respect to Tony. Brett Davis! Brett was 11 years old at the time of the snap. And now he's 16 years old alongside with Peter and his friends. And honestly, I loved his character. He's such a spoke in a wheel in terms of Peter getting to Michelle Jones. He's like, he complicates that part of the plotline, and it's just awesome. And it's also funny as well. It adds humor to Tom's struggle. The planes scene where Peter is hoping to get closer to MJ, but instead ends up sitting with a teacher, and then Brett ends up sitting with MJ. It's just hilarious. And speaking of humor, it's much better this time than in Homecoming. The jokes, the timing, it's just funnier, it blends better. It's just a funnier movie than Homecoming. I laughed more. The take your clothes scene with one of the European girls, Fury's agents, is just hilarious. And Brett trying to sell Peter to MJ is just cherry on top. The gang arrives in Italy, and honestly, like I said in my Homecoming review and my comeback video, I'm not a huge fan that the entire movie takes place around Europe. It would be better if Peter meets Gwen in Europe, in Venice, alright? Fight some elementals, and then the third act, the final battle, actually takes place in NYC, not in London. Spider-Man movie should be about Spider-Man dealing with stuff in the Big Apple, alright? With some proper web-swinging scenes, because just like Homecoming, Far From Home lacks some proper web-swinging action. At least it has the final web-swinging scene this time, which is pretty awesome. And by saying the web-swinging action, I mean Peter wearing Spider-Man suit and swinging in NYC, not a carnival mask in Venice, alright? By the way, in case you didn't know, if you pause the movie right here, you can see Quentin Beck talking on a phone. He's spying on Peter way before his proper introduction scene, so that's a cool detail right here. As for movie taking place in Europe once again, I guess it came down to two things. Number one, they probably wanted something new setting for a Spider-Man movie which hasn't been seen before, but I guess Tom already fought in space, he fought the purple guys, so I'm not sure about this one. The most likely scenario is that they didn't want to show NYC after Endgame, everybody dealing with the events of the snap and the comeback of so many people, because surely when Elemental pops up in NYC and causes the destruction, I guess some Avengers like Sam Wilson or somebody else would at least investigate this Elemental, right? It's really a beaten up question that everybody asks, even after the first Avengers movie came out. Like, where is everybody in another movie? Where is Hulk? Where is Thor? Why nobody helped Iron Man? Blah 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 blah. Because they are busy with another things, alright? I just think everybody, especially Avengers, would be really on high alert after the Thanos invasion. So seeing Elemental in NYC, everybody would just group up and try to beat him, right? So having Peter and Fury deal with all that stuff in Europe, it's the most realistic and plausible choice, I guess. What looked like an awesome day suddenly changes into a disaster with Hydro-Man arriving, I mean Water Elemental. And of course, while the Elemental itself is an illusion due to drones flying around, the destruction and threat is actually pretty real. Peter left his costume in a hotel, and therefore the first thing he tries to do in order to defeat a water elemental is to shoot a web at it. Yeah, While Peter tries his best to stop the Hydro Man, Mysterio emerges once again and saves the day, and oh my freaking god, isn't that costume gorgeous? It is of course different from his comic book costume, slightly more tweaked as well. The actual costume designer from Far From Home said that it's pretty much a mix of Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Thor and Vision. Apparently chest piece takes influence from Iron Man, the synthetic body part comes from Vision, the cape was inspired by Thor's cape. I mean, this makes sense since Mysterio is trying his best to blend into good guy territory, and what's the best way to do that than to look like the Avengers everybody knows, right? It's also interesting to know that filmmakers told Jake that he isn't really forced to wear his costume all the time if he finds it too goofy or uncomfortable, but apparently Jake liked this costume so much he actually wanted to wear it all the time, so they included into way more scenes than they originally planned. Throughout the entire movie, Mysterio's power showcase comes to three things. He can fly, he can create illusions, and he can shoot green beams, green laser, green gas, green whatever that is. Nobody even questioned him what exactly are his powers in the movie. I mean, that's fine, he just makes sure that he does something, some form of damage, and beats all the elementals. In the comics, Mysterio is super talented, super effects artist, and also a failed actor. And just like his movie counterpart, he really doesn't have any real superpowers. His costume and his expertise in stunt work is a real deal, though. He can create illusions, various gases, hallucinogens, which messed up with Spidey's sense a couple of times in comic books. He's also a great engineer. He's into electronics and tweaks, and he came up with a strong acid that can basically dissolve Spider-Man's webbing. He's just really a talented fella that knows his skills and is really good at tricking and confusing people as well. In the movie, he's a Stark employee who got shit on by Tony. He got mad that Tony called his innovative holographic illusion binarily augmented retro framing simply barf. In the movie, all of his powers and illusions come from combat battle droids, which were also developed by a guy called William, another ex-Stark employee we've actually been introduced to in the very first Iron Man movie. So yeah, the costume in the movie itself isn't equipped with 300 gadgets or tricks, apart from his fishbowl helmet, where he can control drones and illusions and stuff like that. He relies purely on those drones, and that's a fine change. I mean, I wasn't expecting some hidden button in his shoe that releases a super dangerous fart gas into Peter's face and then Peter falls asleep or something like that. They had to do things slightly different. Am I mad again that another villain and plotline is tied to Tony Stark? No. I mean, his anger moment towards Tony is mentioned really briefly, right? It's pretty clear that Quentin is a lunatic. Just like his comic book counterpart, Quentin has a huge ego problem. Ego is Mysterio's biggest weakness. He thinks he's like the greatest ever, and I'm pretty sure MCU's Quentin would go bonkers even without Tony's insult. He's just really crazy. I'm sure eventually he would come up with some bullshit way to use barf and to get some public recognition eventually, so even if Tony was alive. People with such ego problems, they tend to snap quite often. So in the movie, Mysterio is more like a concept. He only exists in public's eye, you know, everybody knows Mysterio, except for Quentin himself and his crew. They know that Mysterio is just a fraud, he's just a character to fool everybody and to get his hands on Edith and more Stark drones. So yeah, it's like using a certain public image while actually doing other shady stuff in the background seems pretty relevant to our modern society and politics, and seems appropriate, you know? Especially in our current age of AI, you know? The Venice action sequence is really well done. Like I said earlier, while I do dislike the Europe setting, too much Europe in this movie, seeing Peter swinging around in the super unfamiliar setting, adjusting to it, it's pretty awesome. Venice and its architecture is actually breathtakingly beautiful. Seeing this massive superhero battle taking place here felt really fresh. You know, something we haven't seen in MCU before. I'm just wondering how many concussions Peter got after hitting that bell multiple times. Obviously, to us viewers, Mysterio did dog shit, and people still celebrate. Meanwhile, Peter saved people, and all he cares about is that his gift to MJ is still intact. And he's slightly curious about this Mysterio fella, and I guess slightly happy that somebody did all the hard work for him. He's on vacation after all. A little bit weird that the entire news segment showing us Mysterio flying from different angles didn't cover this guy swinging around in carnival mask. I mean, really? Nobody spotted Peter swinging around like shooting webs at the buildings? Anyway, Mysterio's mission is a success. Everybody loves him and treats him like a hero. Brad even calls him a new Iron Man and Thor, like basically both of them rolled into new superhero. Oh, Mysterio's awesome! Nick Fury recruits Peter into an important mission and gives him Edith. Last gift from Tony. By the way, I hated that Nick Fury was actually a Skrull. We only see real Nick Fury in the after credits scene, right? Who presumably left to chill in space shortly after Tony Stark's funeral, I guess. While Talos, it's the name of the Skrull that plays Nick Fury, gave us an Oscar-worthy impression of Fury. Really good job. Like, how the hell he knew exactly how to behave and talk like Nick Fury, I don't know. They pretty much tricked everybody who watched this movie for the first time, right? That plotline still doesn't make sense of it. I'm not a fan of it. Just a really stupid plotline. The only possible explanation would be as to why Marvel and Sony decided to make him a Skrull, because the real Nick Fury wouldn't be fooled by Mysterio for so long. He would find out the guy's a fraud quite early on. But that's super lame explanation. Really stupid. Peter meets Quentin, who tells him he's from another Earth, Earth 833, which is funny because this is the first time we got introduced to the concept of multiverse before MCU actually dived into it completely. And that mention is based on a lie. Peter gave his exciting nerd speech being amazed at the possibility of existence of multiverse the same way Andrew geeked out about it years later in No Way Home. I love Jake Gyllenhaal so much. Honestly, if I was gay, that would be my number one crush. It's a perfect casting choice to play Mysterio. Donnie Darko was my Netflix and chill before Netflix and chill became a thing when I was in my teen years in early 2000s. But his best role is probably Zodiac, followed by Prisoners movie alongside with Hugh Jackman. I highly suggest watch those movies in case you guys haven't. They are amazing. The way he portrays Quentin, who tells about destruction of his planet and how he seeks help from Peter, is just, even when you know he's a fraud, he's not really a good guy. Multiple times during the movie I forgot about it. I legit forgot about it. He's just so likable and really he makes you want to relate to him. I know a lot of people had issues with Peter giving Edith to Quentin, how stupid and gullible Peter was while doing so, but honestly, if I was 16 years old, I would give up that multi-billion tag to this guy in a heartbeat for two reasons. Number one, I've got hormones f***ing up my brain and I wanna stay as much close as possible to my crush MJ. So f*** your mission, Nick Fury. And number two, I saw this guy kick elementals ass with no issues. He can handle himself, he's powerful, he lost his entire planet, he's motivated and he's supportive. He cares about my personal struggles. Besides, Peter really didn't want all that responsibility carrying Edith anyway. He felt he doesn't deserve it. He's not the next Tony Stark. He's not the right guy to carry Tony's legacy. So with that being said, you really can't blame him for that decision. Quentin knew that. So he played his cards just right. He knew what strings to pull, what to say, at what moment, Like, hell yeah, brother, you go get your girl, you want it, let me carry about elementals, I will deal with them. Peter Parker is a human. Humans do mistakes, humans have emotions, humans do dumb things. So while Quentin and his charm did help with that decision to give up on Edith, Peter didn't want it in his possession anyway, like I said, especially seeing how powerful this thing is during the bus trip scene where he tried to stop Brett from showing his photo to MJ. I mean, check this out, this thing can read people's backgrounds, it knows about everything and everyone. It knows what you are typing on your phone while you are sitting on another seat. It controls entire army of super powerful drones. Just think about it. Peter could become next Tony without even trying too hard. He's got the tech, he's got the suit, right? But he didn't want that. At this point in this story, Quentin knew that he needed to do something spectacular and heroic in order to finally push Peter into the decision to give him Edith. So during the Night Monkey scene fighting Molten Man, a lava elemental in Prague, Mysterio sacrifices himself and seemingly dies while beating Elemental. This particular stunt wasn't for the public, like his previous victory in Venice, for example. This was for Peter. That's the finish line. This stupid kid will see me giving up my life in order to save people, and he will finally snap and handle me the glasses. And he did. Besides all his determination and talents, Mysterio is also a fantastic psychologist. Sometimes even our parents don't know what's going on in our heads when we are like 16 years old during our teenage years, but Quentin knows exactly what's going on in Peter's head, and he got what he wanted by pulling the strings. The scene where he finally gets Edith and he switches from a good guy to a complete S is just hilarious and really well played. I imagine so many people shocked in theaters who didn't know about Mysterio at all at this stage. Also worth noting, during the big reveal scene about him getting fired by Tony and how he assembled his crew, Quentin says that soon enough Mysterio will become the greatest superhero on Earth. So really, it all comes to that. Edith, Stark drones, elementals, all of that served one purpose: to fuel his ego and become the greatest superhero, like the best Avenger. Which is a reminder to everybody who still felt any sympathy or like Quentin even at this stage in the movie to take a step back and realize this guy is actually a villain. He will not stop no matter what. Kill a bunch of teenagers that found out about his secret? Not a big deal. He's really, if you think about it in real life, he wants to kill MJ and Peter and their friends because they found out about Projector, right? He's a psycho, and honestly, even more dangerous than Vulture was in Homecoming. Vulture said to Peter that he will kill everybody he loves if Peter won't stop, and Peter didn't listen to him, and then Vulture really didn't do any of that. Instead, he went on to hijack a plane, right? He had some boundaries and even respect towards Peter at the end of Homecoming. Meanwhile, Mysterio is about to slaughter everybody, every single kid that potentially knew about his secret, and he doesn't have a sudden change of heart towards the end of the movie like most of the Spider-Man villains in previous Spider-Man films. And I absolutely love that. He stayed true to his nature up until his demise. Even during the briefing scene where Mysterio tests out his projectors and the upcoming London showdown, by the way, awesome detail is that they're practicing all of that in what looks like to be an abandoned theater stage, like an actual actor's play, so that's awesome. You can see Mysterio getting furious about missing his projector on a drone, and literally he's threatening his entire crew. He will shoot them in the head if they will not agree with him. So you really begin to question how many of these folks that are following Quentin are actually doing all of that, setting up the operation. They know that he will probably kill some civilians in London, even kids. They do that purely because they're afraid for their lives. Now, speaking of Peter and his development of his relationship with Michelle Jones, I know a lot of people think that Andrew and Emma had the best chemistry. Like, it was peak, right? Yeah, it was pretty good. But I'm probably gonna get shot like Quentin for saying that. I'll say that Tom and Zendaya, especially in Far From Home, are as good, if not better. Yes, they are dating in real life. Andrew and Emma dated briefly too. But it doesn't change the fact that I see them struggling during their first date scene here. For example, I see them behave like they don't know what to say. And I'm thinking like, oh, this feels really real. This is how it goes in real life. Both of them liked each other so much, but they cannot express it. And it's super awkward and hilarious at the same time. So both Andrew and Emma and Tom and Zendaya worked really well. And meanwhile, Toby and Kirsten was like... Toby and Kirsten was like, alright dude, kiss me, it's in the script, and then f*** off to your trailer. As for Ned and his development in Far From Home, Ned just stays Ned. Ned is Ned. Ned is same Ned even in No Way Home, and that's fine. He serves his comedic purpose and we don't ask for more. Realizing his huge up, Peter arrives to Berlin and meets Nick Fury to tell him the truth, but Mysterio is one step ahead and turns out that Nick Fury and entire headquarters is just an illusion. And this brings us to one of the best scenes in Far From Home, probably the best one, and one of the best scenes ever in a Spider-Man movie. This is the reason I've been desperately waiting for Mysterio's appearance on the big screen, and they didn't disappoint. The villains that mess up with heroes' brains are the best kinds, not the ones you have to beat with your punches. This is the best stuff. Peter is completely clueless as to what is going on inside the illusion. Visually, this scene is simply stunning. Peter is completely hopeless. He tries to hit Mysterio, he disappears, nothing works. That scene with Mysterio grabbing MJ and throwing her off a tower is a nice foreshadowing of how she will actually fall down in No Way Home, but instead of Tom, Andrew will save her. It's just an impressive scene, and we even get a glimpse of Spidey and Mysterio actually going at each other, even though briefly throwing punches. Some of the shots come straight from the comic book panels, and the Tony's grave scene is just so evil and a fantastic reference to Robert Kirkman's Marvel Zombies series. Like I said earlier, Mysterio knows Peter even better than Peter himself. It's just pure mental torture, and no other Spider-Man villain up until this point was able to mess up with Spidey on such a deep level, personal level. Of course, that will change in No Way Home with the arrival of the powerhouse known as William Dafoe. This scene culminates with Mysterio's greatest line yet.
It's easy to fool people when they're already fooling themselves.
And after getting hit by a train, ending up in Netherlands and calling Happy for help, we finally arrived at the most important scene in Far From Home in terms of Peter's character development. You see, up until this point, ever since Homecoming, Peter was kinda living in Tony's shadow still. In Homecoming, it was all about excitement of potentially joining the Avengers. Please recruit me. His admiration and fanboying of Tony, with his occasional stubborn attempts to do what's right, and then the babysitting from Iron Man telling him to know his place. And then Infinity War happened, Endgame happened, Tony died, and to all of that we can also add that Peter is now feeling incredible sense of grief and false sense of responsibility. Up until now, Peter genuinely believed that he should follow Tony's footsteps. He shouldn't disappoint him, he can't trash on his legacy. He's dealing with constant pressure of a thought that he's not worthy of being another Iron Man. And now he finally says it.
I don't know if that's me, Happy. I'm not Iron Man.
That I'm not Iron Man, but what actually matters is that neither Tony or Happy or anyone else wanted him to be Iron Man. He placed that burden on himself. That bar he has to reach was too high and it was unnecessary. And it's super important lesson in terms of how important it is to simply be yourself. Especially during your teenage years, we're not sure who we are, who we want to be. We often seek for an example, somebody we can imitate. We set our bars too high based on false beliefs that we should follow some imaginary ideas and crazy standards. Those standards are placed by our surroundings, friends, quite often even our parents. We live with a sense of dread of disappointing our parents, our teachers, tears. Oh no, I can't do what they ask me for, I'm such a disappointment. We get sad, we get depressed, and this actually can carry into your adult years with another set of problems. So sometimes I really wish I could go back in time and punch my 16 years old self and just say, dude, relax, just follow your heart, be yourself, don't try to impress anyone, don't try to imitate anyone. Tom's Peter does exactly that in this scene, that's it. I'm not Iron Man, f that, that's why I gave up on Edith, I don't want that anymore, I wanna be myself and I wanna do what's right, and right now I have to rush and save my friends. This is a proper Spider-Man moment, cause really that's the only thing that matters, always the only thing that matters is saving other people.
I just wanted to be like you.
And I wanted you to be better.
It's really a turning point from a slightly wimpy attitude that he still had from Homecoming to a pretty much a grown-up man. Well, not man yet, but somebody who knows who he is. Happy does say that you don't have to be Iron Man and you never will be Iron Man, and Peter's like, ooh, thank God. And then he f***ing adds fuel to the fire and says that one of the reasons Tony tried to save everybody in Endgame is because of Peter. And Peter's like, bro, I'm coming into my senses now and you put all that f***ing pressure on me again. Of course, since Peter doesn't have his suit, his night monkey suit is wrecked. He uses Stark's convenient build your own shit in a ship booth to create a new suit. And while I should start spitting my rage about yet another use of Stark tech, I have talked about it so much in Homecoming review, I'm gonna say that considering that he's in the middle of nowhere, his friends are about to die, nobody knows what Mysterio has planned, and the only person he can talk to is Happy, you know what, making this suit using the only tools available is truly the only option he has. Peter flies into the final act of the movie. Mysterio carefully finds out that Avengers won't be coming to save London, so he starts wrecking shit. The entire action sequence is spectacular, and Peter's friends finally, especially MJ, finally got to do something as well. But the most important thing I want to talk about is this, the final confrontation between Spidey and Mysterio. Peter's tingle finally transforms into proper Spidey sense. It took him 2 movies to finally being able to control his spider sense, and the way it's portrayed in the movie, he pretty much becomes Neo. It's a total wall hack, it's basically a cheat. It's an absolute shit on Mysterio. Mysterio can't do anything anymore, which makes Quentin rage so much he orders drones to go full power mode, full rage mode, and he fucking shoots himself in the process. He tries to pull off his last stunt, saying that Stark was right and you know what, I will give you back Edith, while he's sort of dying on the ground. Meanwhile, he's actually trying to sneak up on Peter for a headshot, but even that backfires because, like I said, Peter is Neo now and he's super aware about anything that's going on around him. But I want to add that during this last moment where Quentin gives his last speech and tries to borrow some time, Peter tells him that he trusted him, believed him, and Quentin responds by saying,
I trusted you.
I know. That's the most disappointing part.
I'm gonna take a guess, and I will actually say he's being genuine here. He's being honest. Just like the previous scene where he says it's easy to fool people when they're fooling themselves. I think deep inside, Quentin actually tried to be a mentor to Peter, even thought briefly. But not because he was jealous of Tony or anything like that. I really, honestly think maybe he wasn't even aware about that. He wanted Peter to see through all this bullshit. He wanted Peter to catch him, like he tried to teach him not to be so gullible and not to trust anybody. And that's the most important lesson Peter learns, alongside with the fact that he should be Spider-Man and not Iron Man in Far From Home. I really think deep inside Quentin actually cared about Peter in a very twisted, weird way, but of course his ego got a hold of him, and not letting entire world find out about his secret was way more important than some clueless teenager. So we never got to see where this relationship could actually go. And then Mysterio seemingly dies, but the way they did it in a smart way, it's like Peter is asking if this is real or illusion, and Edith says it's real. So I think they tried to make an open window for Mysterio to come back. His very last words thought are, people will believe everything. So he says it as he dies. So maybe, just maybe, it's also fake. But regardless, Mysterio dies, and my first reaction was fuck. And then No Way Home came out, and I said fuck. Then I check out No Way Home concept art with Mysterio fighting Doctor Strange, and I said fuck. Why? Mysterio would be a proper addition to the villains in No Way Home, right? He knows who Peter is, so why? And then I thought, wait a second, you know what? That spider sense that Peter just unlocked, his final skill tree, is pretty much a checkmate in terms of Mysterio's powers. What is Mysterio going to do now? Peter sees through his entire illusions, right? So really, there's no way Peter will lose another battle like that, but they could still make Quentin be sort of like a background player, setting up some traps and some events and like being a mastermind. They could still bring him back in No Way Home, so he's like one of the best villains that ever appeared on the big screen in a Spider-Man movie. He's just perfect. Mysterio was perfect in Far From Home. And of course, throughout the entire movie, I was waiting when is Mysterio is actually going to do his classic move and set up Spider-Man, like show that Spider-Man is actually a villain, you know, do something tricky. And he does. After his death, J. Jonah Jameson gets his hands on this altered footage. It's like Spider-Man is killing Mysterio. You have to remember, Mysterio dies, but everybody still thinks that he's a hero because of this footage. And of course, he also reveals that Peter is a Spider-Man. Pretty sure they had their plans already ready for No Way Home by the time Far From Home came out due to J. Jonah Jameson's appearance here. It's an alternate J. Jonah Jameson. It's a wink at the multiverse, so I think they had plans with how the movie will play out now that everybody knows that Peter is Spider-Man. So let's just say thank you, Mysterio, thank you. Without Mysterio, there wouldn't be No Way Home. Without Mysterio, we wouldn't see Toby or Andrew. Without Mysterio, Tom wouldn't be willing to cast a spell for everybody to forget about him. So everything really, Mysterio died, but he's still the most important villain in Tom Holland's trilogy, if you think about it. He had the most impact. I guess after you heard me saying that Tom learned his lesson not to trust everybody and everything else, you'd be shocked that he trusted Norman in No Way Home, right? After his experience with Mysterio. Guys, Norman, when he is Norman, not Green Goblin, he's legit Norman. He doesn't even know he's Green Goblin. So Spider Sense is not triggering. He's like completely different human being. So it's a huge excuse, to be honest. Peter really thought this guy is like legit and he's like lost. But we'll talk about Norman and everything else in No Way Home. I know many people think Far From Home is the weakest movie of Tom Holland's trilogy. I will say it's the second best to No Way Home. It's much better than Homecoming. It's funnier. The villain is 300 times better. It has its problems, obviously, like the Nick Fury's unnecessary plot twist, too much Europe setting. But Mysterio is probably like, it's definitely, not even probably, it's the top tier Spider-Man villain in a Spider-Man movie alongside like Doc Ock, Green Goblin. Mysterio is there for me and will always be there. I just hope he will come back someday, somehow. And of course, I absolutely love the cast and especially Tom Holland in Far From Home. You know, right? That's surprising, right? Considering how many problems I had in Homecoming. But really, he learns some lesson. He gets more mature in this movie. And really, the whole story with Mysterio is like a preparation of what's to come in No Way Home. How he can deal with it after it. Don't have much to say about the suit. Honestly, I even forgot how the suit looks like after the movie ended. It's alright, I guess. The action is absolutely fantastic, like I said, especially during the London sequence with Peter doing some crazy tricks with his webbing. It's very important to show how creative Spider-Man is actually with his webbing. So he has some swinging, and the final web swinging scene is alright. He gets together with the girl he loves, MJ, and it goes into the No Way Home. It's a fantastic movie, and yes, I will say it again, this is better than Spider-Man Homecoming. It just feels more impactful and more epic. Holy shit, my review is over 40 minutes and Homecoming was like 20 minutes. I guess No Way Home will be like Lord of the Rings Director's Cut, freaking 5 hours long. Hopefully not, guys, but I actually said everything I wanted to say. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Stay tuned. We will be doing No Way Home review soon as well. I might be covering some new rumors. Take care, guys. See ya later and bye-bye.